Hey everyone, it's Cole, and today I have a shirt on, unlike every other video I make. um, I wanted to do a video today talking a little bit more about who I am and where I come from, and just kind of a little bit of backstory about my life and stuff like that. Um, I wanted to talk about first where I grew up. So, I grew up really close to Seattle, not within like walking distance, but relatively close. I'd say 15-20 minutes. I grew up around there. I'm not going to say exactly where. And my mother was a single mom, and for the most part, I did have stepdads, but with that being said, she was a single mother. Um, and she was always supportive of everything that I was and what I wanted to be. Like, when I was little, I wanted so badly to be a dog. Like, legitimately, I was obsessed with being a dog. And she never made me feel weird about it. I mean, yeah, I was really young, and I probably played that game for a little bit too long, but she never made me feel bad about my dreams or when I was a tomboy growing up, I would refuse to wear anything feminine. Um, and that really started to get, I'd say, like more and more prominent when I was probably after like age 7 or 8 is when as I really, started to be more of like a tomboy. Um, and she never made me feel bad about it. She always basically complied, like I was like I only shopped in the boys section. She knew that's what I liked, and she never ever tried to force female things or typical female things onto me, like dresses and pretty things and pink or anything like traditional. She was never like that. The only thing that she ever really said no on was me. I really wanted to wear little boys' underwear when I was little, but that was kind of where she drew the line, and she had her reasons for it. I mean, I don't really know why, but I think it was probably just because she didn't know how to deal with that at the time, and I whatever. It's just underwear. So I couldn't wear boy underwear even though I really wanted to. But everything else she was fine with. I wore boys pants, shirts, or anything like that. Like she was cool with. And even when I turned 13, 14, she let me cut all my hair off. Like I mean, like all of it. I had like maybe an inch of hair. Well, no, I think it was probably about 3 inches. I mean, I relaxed my hair last night, so I have really curly hair, and I don't like it, so I try to relax it or keep it short. But um, I had really short curly hair, and she let me cut it all off, and she never made me feel bad. Um, the only thing she every time she always said that she'd be supportive of anything and everything and anything that I was or wanted to do, as long as I wasn't hurting myself or others. So I think that's amazing. It really let me explore who I was, and I never felt shame for not wanting to be girly or pretty or anything like that. When I got a little bit older, I kind of grew out of it for a little while. I started to uh, dress up and wear tighter clothes, more like just not appropriate clothing, I would say, for like a 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid to be wearing. But I wore certain clothes, and I started to be a little bit more feminine. And then it kind of fell apart again, and I kind of went back to being more of a tomboy when I was like 11 or 12, I'd say, is when that really happened. And I was into sports. I did track, I did cross country, I was a swimmer, I was a basketball player, I played softball, um, that kind of thing. I really loved all of that. I was very active. Um, and I was really into skateboarding and rollerblading and all that kind of stuff too. I rode horses and just all sorts of things. And I just, was just cozy. I was always like trying to be just comfortable. Things for me didn't start to get pretty bad until after junior high. Junior high is an awkward time for most people. I was a part of the emo crowd. I never labeled myself that, but that's what everybody else labeled me and my friends. So we were part of that group, and we got picked on horribly, horribly. Kids would throw trash out of the bus when we were walking home at us. They'd throw like half full bottles or cans of pop or water and their food as we walked by, and people would harass us all the time. But um, it happens, unfortunately. Um, but after junior high, it got really bad, and it wasn't even like once I got into high school, people were a lot nicer. And it wasn't even, I think, that they were nicer. I think it was just that the cliques, if you will, kind of just kept to themselves. Whereas in junior high, uh, it was very like those teen high school movies where the jocks are out to get the punks and the geeks and all that dumb stuff. But in high school, that kind of just went away, and people were kind of just what they were. We were all growing up, and I still have my same friends. In fact, most of my friends I've known since elementary school, and we're still best friends today. Um, but that's when I first really started to notice that I was uncomfortable, and I'd always been uncomfortable. I had had moments in my childhood where I uh, I remember feeling things and not understanding things about myself, um, like the other boys. I didn't understand why I wasn't the same, or that why I couldn't wear just trunks to the swimming pool. I didn't understand why like I was different, and I was really young. I was probably like 5 to 6. But when I got into high school, I tried so hard to be feminine. I grew out all my hair, I long curly hair, and I wore tight clothes, and my makeup was lighter for a while, and um, I tried to like come out of my shell a little bit, and I made friends, and we went to parties, and I was in a band for a long time. I've played music since I was 12, 13 seriously, until just a few years ago, but that's a different story. And things from the outside looking in were great, but during this time, things were really bad at home, and my anxiety was just at its like at the worst it had ever been in my life, and that's when I developed anorexia. Um, Not even consciously. It wasn't even that I thought I was fat, or that I needed to change, or that I thought I'd be prettier if I was skinnier. I developed an eating disorder because of the amount of anxiety that I had, and it was constant, and I was alone during this time. I mean, my sister was with me, but she was dealing with her thing, and my mom was struggling with her own thing, so I was very much alone, and I stopped eating. That's as simple as I know how to say it, and it's taken me almost a decade. I was 16 when my anorexia was like full blown, and it's taken about up until now, so that's 9 years for me to not be that way. When I have a panic attack or an anxiety attack, I don't fall back into those eating habits, and if I do, I have certain things that I can do to jumpstart myself back into a normal eating regimen. Um, but I don't know, it just kind of, the reason why I'm telling everybody this, one, it's a part of my story, and two, I think it really ties back to being trans in a way, having this subconscious feeling, if that makes any sense. It's like it's there, but you can't put words to it. I felt like I was broken. And I know that sounds cliche, but I would use that word in my head for myself. Wasn't attracted to men. I wasn't attracted to women. But I knew, like, the way I wanted to wear my clothes was very specific. I would, like, watch men and envy, like guys my age at the time, just so envious, and I didn't understand why. Like, why did I cared so much about the way his clothes looked on him versus the way that mine looked on me? I was so self-conscious about everything. It didn't matter what it was. I had this idea of what I looked like in my head, and I hated it. I hated the sound of my voice. I hated how small my feet were, and I still do. I hated how small my hands were. I hated how weak I felt. I hated that even though after high school I ended up shaving my head. I had come out as a lesbian. My mom was not surprised, and she, uh, in fact, told me later that it gave her a lot of insight to her own self, and that's her own personal thing. But I guess she had told me that I had helped her in a lot of ways when I had come out, and I started to dress more the way that I felt comfortable without feeling ashamed, but something still wasn't right, and it didn't matter. I was excited because for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't broken. I was like, oh, I'm just gay, and I'm now, attracted to women actually, and this makes so much sense. But as the years went by, I came out at 18. I was probably, I don't know, 21 when I started to really bury feelings that were continuing to come up. Um, and that's when, unfortunately, I met my ex. And I say unfortunately because I kind of roped her into all of this, and we've discussed it, and we're happy that things turned out the way that they turned out. Because she's very happy now, and we're still friends, and I'm tremendously happy to beyond, I can't even explain how happy I am with the way that my life is turning out. But um, it was horrible. I completely shut down. I never had sex with her, and she's beautiful. She's a beautiful woman, and she was so loving and caring and kind and funny, and we had fun together. Um, but it wasn't. I hated the way that my body looked naked. It didn't matter. It was wrong. Everything was wrong, and I didn't understand why. So right before I realized I was trans, thanks LJ, um, I decided to enroll in this school for talent, and I did it just for fun. I started to get into indie film at that time, and I was like, well, this will be fun, and I was going to go for acting, but they looked at me, and one look at me, and they were like, oh, you're going to be a model. And I'm like, well, okay, but I want to be an actor. And they're like, no, 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 you're going to be a model. Because I was skinny, and I was a little bit on the taller side of short, and I had a shaved head, so I was edgy. And I had tattoos, so automatically I was like edgy in their book. And I had to learn how to do runway walking in heels, which was very uncomfortable because I had to be in a bikini, and I was the only girl at the time. Um, in a room full of cisgender males who all were wearing swimming trunks, and I was in a bikini and heels that were a size too big for my feet, and I just remember thinking, oh my god, everything is jiggling, and there are mirrors are everywhere, and the teacher kept hounding me about my walk. It was horrible. But at the same time, after my photo shoot and I got the photos back, I felt so relieved because for the first time, really, in my whole life, I felt pretty. And I did this because I was like, this is it. This is what's going to fix it. I'm going to be a model, and I'm pretty, and people are going to like me, and I'm going to like myself, and all of these weird feelings will just go away, and I can just learn how to be happy with myself and being female, and all of these thoughts went through my head, and obviously that didn't work out. But that's kind of what I wanted to show you today. So 15 minutes, 15-minute video. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. And at the end of the video, I will show you how those photos turned out. Um, but so that was like, I don't know, I'd say maybe 6 months before I came out. And the day I came out to people that were close to me, was the first person was my mom. And I was sitting at my ex's house because we lived together, we were still together. And I called her on the phone, and I was shaking. And this is my mom, you know, and and everybody that knows my mom, to think that I would be afraid to tell her something is just ridiculous, because she's my mom and she's one of the most wonderful human beings I've ever had the opportunity to know, you know, and to think that like I came from her is just amazing, because she's so important to me and she's so amazing and she loves me so much, and I'm so lucky and grateful. And to think that even I was afraid, I can't even imagine what other people will have to go through. But I called her and she answered the phone, and immediately I started crying. And she, being my mom, thought that someone was dead or hurt or I was hurt or something, and she's freaking out. She's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I paused and I was just like, "I don't feel female." And she kind of paused for a minute and she just said, "I know." And that was kind of the beginning of everything. Um, she obviously cried. She later she told me that she was going through mourning, that she needed to process it, and that while she was so happy for me, and she knew that this was the right thing, that she was so sad to be losing that person. And a lot of people, everybody has their own opinions, but in my opinion, transitioning, um, I don't agree with the notion that, or the saying that I'm still the same person. I'm not. I'm 110% different. Um, Even my likes, the things that I like are different, and things that I used to love, like music, that my opinions on that have changed, which is what was one of my biggest fears. I still love music, you know, I still play from time to time, but who I was then and who I am now are completely different people. And when I see myself from before, I do not see even a sliver of that, of who I am in that person. That person was desperately sad. You know, that person was sick and scared, um, and lost and confused and everything that I am not. And I knew that my mom would be losing a daughter. Um, but I know that looking at me now, she knows that she never really had a daughter. She just had a really hairless son. I know it's weird, but that's the only, like, that's just how I feel about it, you know. This is a really long video. I feel like a lot of my videos are long because I ramble, but I just kind of wanted to share my experience and some of my feelings, with what I've been through, and and stuff like that. I've been pondering. I know I'm only 25, but I've been pondering about, like, pondering whether or not I should write a memoir. I feel like I've gone through a lot. Actually, I know I've gone through a lot, and I've lived through more than I would have liked to have lived through. Not saying that that sounded wrong, but I just wish there's a lot of stuff in my life I wish I hadn't gone through, and that has happened. And yeah, so that's just something that I was thinking about and wanted to share. If any of you have questions regarding my personal life, with what I've shared with you here, how I've gotten through something, eating disorders, anxiety disorders, abuse, feel free to message me if you need help or you need someone to talk to. I'm here. Um, I always appreciate your views and the wonderful things you guys leave on my YouTube channel. So thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Couple weeks. Bye.